Hey everybody, John Pollock here alongside Cody Saftik, and breaking news out of Las Vegas, the fight involving Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov, it is off after Nurmagomedov had to be taken to hospital on Thursday night, and based on the doctor's recommendation, he was not cleared to compete after obvious problems with his weight cut, Cody, and this is definitely a big blow to this card, as many would say this was the most anticipated fight on this card.
Yeah, no doubt, especially when you lose a fight. Anytime it's going to be devastating. When you lose a fight 24 hours out of the actual event itself, it's just extra. Now you're looking at two of the best lightweights on the planet, the co-main event, a title fight, as I mentioned. Losing all that is obviously going to be a big deal. And I know there's a lot of criticism, a lot of people are upset, and rightfully so, but at the end of the day, this is the guy's health. We wish him nothing but the best. Hopefully he's okay, and probably not in his best wishes to fight right now.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing, when you're talking about a guy that needs medical assistance to that degree that you're transporting him to a hospital, right. The idea of then continuing a weight cut and then fighting after that is just ridiculous to me, as are the expectations, I feel, that naturally set upon fans that we should just find some quick opponent for Tony Ferguson to fight someone completely different on 24 hours notice, which I think is crazy as well. I think that Tony Ferguson he gets his show money, and unfortunately now doesn't have the opportunity to fight and make that win bonus or compete for an interim title. But this is certainly a fight people want to see, but obviously Tony Ferguson loses out here.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about maybe there should be a fighter on retainer, that's someone that you tell, hey, we'll give you a couple bucks, stay in shape, have a training camp. If you don't end up fighting, you take your retainer money. If you do end up fighting, we could use it as a replacement for big fights. Maybe that's an option here, but to say someone like Lando Venata, like, oh, have a rematch, that's a big task for somebody to take on someone who's getting ready for a 5-round fight. To take anybody who would presumably make weight or close to weight on a day's notice, that just seems ludicrous.
At this level, to me, it makes no sense to me, other than there's a monetary incentive for a Tony Ferguson to stay and fight. But you're talking about, you've spent 8 to 9 weeks preparing for one opponent, and now you're going to get 30 hours to prepare for a brand new guy that you can just throw into the mix here. I don't think that's fair to Tony Ferguson, and he loses that fight. It's not going to be people putting an asterisk and not holding the loss against him. He's suddenly out of that contention.
Yeah, well, see, there's the other problem, too. If you bring in someone, like, let's say someone deserved it, like you bring in an Eddie Alvarez, to tell Eddie Alvarez you have to fight Tony Ferguson on a day's or 2 days' notice would be crazy in itself. As well, if you're a guy like Eddie Alvarez and you lose that fight, now you're just conceivably dropped down the ranks almost completely. And Michael Johnson, if you take that risk and you jump up, then what you stand to lose is huge. But as well as that, Tony Ferguson, you're being guaranteed a title shot here. The winner of this was supposed to take on McGregor. So if Khabib's out, then does Tony Ferguson automatically get that next shot at McGregor? We don't know. But it'd obviously be in his best interest to sit. I think the larger question now becomes, people talk about Khabib and, can you rely on this guy? He's pulled out of a number of fights, mostly because of those knee injuries. This is not a knee injury. It seems to be a weight cutting issue. And from the reports that are circulating, we don't know what's accurate and what's not accurate, but that he had cut about 35 pounds in this week to try to come down. If you look at this Bellator event scheduled for Friday night, and you look at a guy like Kendall Grove, who's supposed to take on Mike Biggie Rhodes. Mike Biggie Rhodes also got sick trying to make the weight, and guess what he was cutting? 35 pounds. You can't cut that amount of weight. It's not safe. It's not healthy. And whether not everyone's always going to get sick and pull out, it's going to happen. When it does, it happens in a big way, and this is a big way.
How much do you feel this impacts the business for this particular card? You and I were talking about buy estimates earlier in the week. I was pegging this card at around 250,000 buys. I don't think it's going to be that far off from this. This certainly takes out a lot of interest, but I think that you're talking about more of your hardcore audience than most that were really into this card that are probably still getting this show. Do you think that the loss of this fight is going to have a drastic impact on the pay-per-view?
Yeah, well, a lot of people were discussing maybe it's going to do between that 250 to as high as I was saying, potentially 400,000 buys. Losing the co-main event, and a co-main event of this magnitude, a fight that most fans seem to be talking about, is going to be devastating as well, and we've discussed this as well. The UFC hadn't put a lot of promotion in the Marcon Alistair Overeem fight. Now, this jumps up to your co-main event, and by the way, a fine co-main event, but you've put literally no promotion behind it. You've got an odd storyline heading into that fight, and because there has been no coverage, to a casual fan, to get them to jump in and say, well, you just lost a hell of a co-main event, but we're going to give you Alistair Overeem a hunt. Most of them didn't even know that fight was on, so they could have done a better job kind of promoting the other fights on that main card, because now you're going to have, say, Luis Henrique Tabora jump up, and then now you're going to have some criticism on that main card. Is that a pay-per-view worthy main card?
This is the second time this lightweight fight has fallen apart. Do you try to put this fight back together? I mean, to me, it's the most obvious title eliminator or interim title fight, whatever you want to classify it as. I think a lot of people want to see this fight, but do you see these two going in different directions in the lightweight division, or is this still the fight to make?
Yeah, I mean, stylistically, this is the fight to make. Namesake, this is the fight to make. And if Conor's not fighting either of these guys, obviously it's the fight to make. And I do feel bad saying this, you can't put any faith in Khabib right now. I mean, he has pulled out of a number of fights. This is also not the first time that he would have conceivably missed weight, as he did so against Abel Trujillo. Whether he's too big to make 155 pounds, whether he grinds too hard at AKA, we don't know. But for the UFC, when you're trying to sell a pay-per-view, and you're trying to sell a big fight, and you're trying to sell all these things, you have to have faith in him. Let's say this was a Conor McGregor pay-per-view. Let's say this was the much-anticipated Khabib versus Conor McGregor fight, and he gets hurt. That is a huge missed opportunity for the UFC. They're going to lose on an infinite amount of money, and they do not want that. So they need people that they can have faith in. Tony Ferguson doesn't pull out of fights. You can have faith in him. Khabib, there's a lot of uncertainties. Where does he go from here? I don't know. But if I'm Tony Ferguson, I'm not saying, yeah, I'll sit around and I'll fight you when you're healthy. I'm thinking, I got half, if half, of what I was scheduled to make here. That's unacceptable. I want somebody else.
Well, we will continue to monitor this story, but Khabib Nurmagomedov, Tony Ferguson off of UFC 209. We have lots coming out of Las Vegas, where John Ramdine and Robin Black are down there reporting from Vegas. You can keep it locked at FightNetwork.com and our YouTube channel, and tune in Saturday at noon Eastern. We will be going live with a full preview show of UFC 209.